back to Sleepless in Dubai. We're recording live here at the incredible hotel of 25 Hours. My name's Julie Mallon. I'm the founder of Nurture to Sleep and the mother of 3 incredible adult daughters. And I'd now like to hand you over to my co-host, Laura Buckwell.
And yes, my name is Laura Buckwell. I am a broadcast journalist, international event MC, and mother of 2. And we are absolutely delighted today to be joined by Jay, who is the CEO of Mirabelle Communications. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, firstly, thank you, Julie, Laura, for having me. Happy to be sleepless in Dubai, and it's been quite sleepless so far.
No,
Please.
It's that time of year. It's that time of year. But I run an advertising agency. We work in travel and tourism. We have clients around the globe, and I'm not sure if I'm here for my daytime job or my passion of Manchester United, because I'm a big football fan. And we seem to meet a lot of people in our professional journey through personal journey, and my passion for sport, football, and going to Manchester especially. People say to me, what's your favourite city in the world? And my answer is Manchester, because, you know, it's the home theatre of dreams of my team. So, you know, and I actually try and go there as often as I can. And that's where I meet a lot of our clients and, you know, and work from there, you know.
Amazing that you can actually put those two in parallel, your passion and your work. I mean, that's the dream, right?
Well, yeah. And I think when you work for yourself, you try and find situations where you have that ability to follow your passion, but, you know, you're always working, you never switch off. And then this is why we're on this topic of, you know, sleeplessness. But I'm happy that, you know, through sport, you learn quite a lot, you know, and then you bring those attributes into the working world.
It's also quite interesting that you talk about, you know, travel being the main stem of your work and your company, because in the last 3 years, there's been something called sleep tourism.
Okay.
Now, that sleep tourism is, I think it's been on the agenda many years ago. It's just that we've found a new way of presenting it. But I also do think that the need for persons to sleep better is greater now than ever before, because we do live in a society where we are always on. So I do think we are now giving, you know, almost greater respect to sleep and understanding the benefits of it. So we are prioritising sleep finally. I don't believe we're there yet, because we're still not walking the talk. The information is all out there, but we are still not getting enough sleep. So in terms of your tourism and sleep tourism, this is a really big trend for the future.
Yeah, and I've got friends who actually brought me to Dubai quite a lot for the tourism factor. They have a travel tourism company, introduced me to a lot of people. And we're encouraging people from the UK especially to come. And, you know, there's the glitz and glamour of Dubai, but there's the other side of, you know, health and wellness. And we've done this in other destinations, promoting your well-being and, you know, what you eat and how you rest, how you recuperate, but in the beautiful environment. And hopefully we can encourage more people to, you know, this sleep, come and sleep. It sounds a dream. I don't know.
But it is, I mean, again, you know, we were talking about how you rest and how you exercise and enjoy. You know, we were talking about different pillars of health, and they talk about the 3 pillars of health. And those 3 pillars are exercise, nutrition, and sleep. But actually, without sleep, we are much more prone to injury. So exercise doesn't have the same value. Without sleep, the food that we're eating, it doesn't matter. We could be eating the best food in the world, but if we're not sleeping, then the body can't absorb the nutrients. So again, the only thing that is more important than sleep is actually breathing. And we do need to understand.
And I think I was saying, when, you know, in your teens and early 20s, and especially when you have young staff, you're trying to encourage them to live well. The sleeping, you know, myself, I've been there. You don't want to go to sleep. You want to go out. You want to go to meet people. You want to travel. You want to see things. And I think there's a conception that you think sleep gets in the way, really. So grab it when you can.
But now, I mean, you know, an owner of a very successful company, we again are understanding about the benefits of productivity. And if we put sleep first before work, the science is really showing us that the productivity outcome is so much greater from a financial perspective. So, you know, there's different countries around the world that are now finally introducing incentives to sleep better.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for every hour that somebody comes in and says they've slept more, I know there's certain companies in America, they will get $1 more in their pay, in their salary. You know, in Germany, for example, there is software that they're implementing that you can't access your emails after a certain time. So,
Interesting.
you know, you as the owner and CEO of the company,
I bear responsibility as well. And I think the way we're trying to improve, because as the world becomes smaller and we're working in campaigns globally, the hours become longer for people. So how do you know, encourage well-being in that respect? So then you start asking people to come in later, and then employ people to say your hours you start later and then you work later. So then you try and balance that shift. So it's not all on your shoulders. Laura's got to do it a bit as well, you know.
Yeah. So do you believe in a 4-day work week?
Good question. Probably no.
Not the CEO of a company.
No. You know what it is? We, at the end of the day, it's all about delivering for the people that you represent. And whenever that is, you're going to do what you have to do to make the job, get the job done, you know. And if it only takes 2 days, great. You know, that'd be brilliant if you could do it in 2 days, but it's not really, you know.
But I do think that's where we, again, need to make this paradigm shift, in that we need to be looking at long term. So short term of doing all these hours and delivering, because we've got to deliver them in 2 days, which I know is really, really difficult. You know, I get asked all the time about having articles, doing this, and you've got to have it done by tomorrow. So I really, really get that. But this is short term, we can deliver, but long term, actually the outcomes will not be the best outcomes for all of us, for any of us. So it's, you know, like you were saying, taking responsibility for our team and being the best role models that we can. And my family would really laugh now at this point. Like,
go on.
But I'm like you, I absolutely love my work. I cannot learn enough, and I want to educate the public and as many people as I can about sleep. So I am on a mission. Yeah. But I have got to sleep as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
I mean, we're walking, talking testimonials of what we love.
Yeah.
You know, so you're encouraging sleep and rest and well-being, and I get it. And I want people around me to have that same feeling. We're learning.
Yeah.
You know.
And I do think it's recognizing that I actually operate on better sleep quality and shorter sleep. That is me. That's who I am. But my husband, for example, or my eldest daughter, they can't. So they sleep. So it's finding your way. So I think that's what it is.
I had an email message, long email message from a close friend I haven't seen for a while. He has a wellness resort in Goa in India. So all about wealth and health, well-being and health. And he also had a pharmaceutical company, which is no longer with him. He's moved on. But the point was, he's talking about mental freedom. The email talks about mental freedom, and that includes what you eat, how much you sleep, you know, free from all the constraints that might bring you down, you know, negativity. So, you know, you start the new year with positive and try and deal with all the things that are holding you back. So that sleep comes into that. If you feel more free, probably you'll sleep more, I imagine.
Yeah. And that's a really lovely segue in that if we're looking at our children's sleep, and children more than anyone don't want to go to sleep. But that ultimately is because sleep is a separation. It's a separation from our parents. And, you know, for them, their concept of time is very limited. But it's the same for us. You know, we can't go to sleep at night until we have separated from all those thoughts during the thought processes during the day, the things that, you know, your brain is racing, like you say, when you've been on, you know, been filming for hours and your brain is racing. You can't really go to sleep and sleep well until you have separated from all those thoughts. And, you know, we talk about dreaming, and dreaming is so important because it's so much about the rapid eye movement of our sleep. And if we're not getting that, we're not having that emotional processing. So there's so many elements to our sleep, not to overcomplicate it, but just sleep better.
Do you dream?
Well, I think I do dream, but I can never remember.
Same. That's what I was going to... I don't remember
Is that a
my
problem
dreams.
if you don't remember your dreams?
No, it's not actually. But you do dream. It's just that you don't remember them. And it's just the elements of your sleep. Food impacts our dreaming as well, because if, depending on the quality of the food or the type of food, then our dreams are quite different as well. So we all dream. And actually, it's quite interesting because there's a lot of literature out there to say that we only dream in the rapid eye movement sleep, so the last part. But that's not true. We can dream as well in the deep sleep. So.
Well, listen, some people have nightmares, you know.
No, exactly. You don't want to remember the dreams,
Yeah.
so you have nightmares, right? I could have had a nightmare last night and been absolutely fine today. You just don't know, do you? But before we sort of start, tell us a little bit more, about yourself and your company and where you're from, because I understand that you started this company in the 90s.
92, right?
92.
Yeah.
And so tell us maybe a bit more about your clients and the campaigns and things like that. Yeah.
I mean, we started quite small, myself, my brother, and it's 31 years ago. I think your passions fuel where you end up, and for some reason we're all travellers in our family, and so I started working with hotels in Blackpool and Cornwall, very meagre places in the UK, but quite exciting, quite vibrant, quite lively, and interesting places to visit. So they were the initial clients that we started working with, and I think the journey grew when we started working internationally. We started working with friends who had hotels in Malta, and one of them opened this hotel, a 4 or 5 star resort. It was all about health and well-being, and it was our job to promote and talk about the benefits of good health and spa and relaxation. And this is going back into early 2000s. So from a world of not really considering health, or I think this is where I got back to football in the 90s. Being a United fan, I used to see Alex Ferguson and then Arsene Wenger come along, and they talk about what you eat, your diet, go to bed early, all these sort of things. They try to encourage, their team players how to live better. So then in our company, we try to think, how can we bring that to our employees and our team? And we embrace yoga. And we used to have a yoga teacher coming, and we'd all sit in a room and we'd embrace spirituality and well-being.
So it's really fascinating that you bring up 2 names there. You talk about Alex Ferguson, Sir Alex Ferguson, and you also talk about Arsene Wenger. Now, they were actually trailblazers and were so far ahead of the curve because there was a very famous author and sleep specialist, Nick Littlehales.
Okay.
And he was the person that kind of blagged his way through, which I do believe you could only do then in the late 1970s, early 1980s. I think with political correctness now, he wouldn't be able to get through. But he was able to go through, say to them he had an appointment with Alex Ferguson, which of course he didn't have. And with that, he said, so what about I can help you with your team? And of course, that was the year that they won the treble. Wow. And it was because their sleep was improved. Arsene Wenger, who also, if we look at the football and the style of football of Arsene Wenger,
amazing.
It was all about intellect. His football, was quite different. And he saw that, and to bring that into his football team. So it's really fascinating that sleep permeates so much part of every aspect of our being. And, what you were talking about as well in terms of football, and almost parallel to what it represents in your world of media and your company being really successful. And you can see that being modelled within the football world. So why is football so important to you?
For over 30 years, our international team has launched campaigns across continents, bringing some of the world's biggest brands to life. Let our cross-cultural experience engage your audiences. Discover the Mirabelle difference at mirabelle.co.uk.
I think we're all fueled by passion. And as a young kid, I think the first things I remember on TV was watching football. And I remember seeing the team in red. And we played Southampton in the 1976 Cup final. We lost 1-0. Bobby Stokes scored, I think, the 76th minute. I remember crying my eyes out. And,
I know.
So those little things, you still remember. And from then, I think I was playing for a local team and at school. I think it breaks barriers, we were saying earlier. I think sport I grew up in another country. I was born in another country, came to the UK, in London. And in South London, the environment's very mixed and quite tough. And it's good. Football is a way where everyone gets together. There's no barriers. And you probably earn your respect that way locally, you know. And so that's the initial passion for sport and football. Then as we had our company and you start becoming a boss or a manager, try to understand people, you look at people who you might respect. So obviously via the media, you see Sir Alex and how he looked after young people. In Croydon, you try and tell people, oh, look, go to bed early tonight, you know, have a good night's sleep. That's not going to happen at 18, 19. You know, people out, you know, the English lifestyle is really, you know.
I don't even think it is the English lifestyle. I think historically, you know, we've all been brought up and for hundreds of years that sleep has very little value. And in fact, sleep is just getting in the way of us achieving when we now know the evidence is showing that the evidence is so clear that it's the complete opposite. The more sleep we get, the more our cognitive function is improved, the more we can achieve. So we are now thankfully beginning to change that narrative, and we really need to change that narrative because there is so much research to say that the shorter we sleep, the shorter we live. And it's that simple. Now, you can say that, well, you know, I didn't have that much sleep years ago and I'm absolutely fine. We've got to remember that we're not comparing like for like. You know, the food that we're eating does not have the same nutrients that it used to. You know, we are not, we are so dark starved, which also has an impact. So I think we have to really, for the younger generations, we've got to lead and we've got to show them the importance of sleep and that it's not boring. It's actually very, very exciting.
Speaking of, you know, sleep being boring, I mean, my 10-year-old does not want to go to sleep. It's because it's boring, mummy. Why do I have to go to sleep? It's boring. Yeah. And then you try and, you know, make them understand it's all about growth and, you know, you're ingesting everything that you've learned throughout the day and you try and sort of break it down in simple sort of terms. But yeah, the boring aspect is there for kids,
I think
for sure.
From our generation, you'd go to the park, you'd play football all day or cricket, whatever the sport. Your mum wouldn't see you all day. You'd come home in the evening all messy and then you're knackered. So that's when you go to sleep. Otherwise, you know.
And the reason why that makes you so tired, your vitamin D levels are really being maintained, increased from being outside. You know, in terms of our skin is the largest organ of the body and it has a number of clocks, huge number of clocks. So the light comes onto the skin, which relays that information to the brain, and that accurately keeps time. That it is, say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so the body gets prepared for sleeping. Also, when we're moving and playing the football, it is releasing the human growth hormone. Now, when the human growth hormone is released, that is now preparing the body for sleeping, because the more movement, the more of the human growth hormone, and then the human growth hormone gives us that really deep restorative sleep. So that's why the movement and being tired, not only just from the light and the vitamin D, but also physical movement. So there's so many aspects which we're not doing enough of today.
Because also, speaking of, you know, physical activity and the adrenaline that we sort of briefly spoke about earlier. So when, let's say I'm at an event, you know, the adrenaline rush is huge, and there's, you know, been a very big event recently where it's been non-stop for sort of 10 days. And literally every night, halfway through the day, absolutely exhausted. Oh God, I've got one more interview to go. And then you go to sleep, you go to bed and you cannot sleep. There's so much rushing through your head. And like, is that adrenaline? What is it?
I mean, this is really interesting in terms of your company and working in the field of advertising, because the field of advertising, from my understanding over the years, it is so stressful. The hours are incredibly long and unpredictable. And it's almost like, you know, you've got to get to this event and you work so hard and then there's that big crash. And basically what's going on is that the adrenal glands, which are partly in terms of cortisol and so on, they are really overworked and firing on all cylinders. So with your work and an advertising company,
I think, you know, we got to go back to passion. and you find something that you enjoy, and you try and find people around you who are equally as passionate, it doesn't seem mature. And then, as things get better and improve, you're working in international markets and your hours, like in Dubai, it's great because you wake up quite early and you have your own world before the UK opens, so there are benefits. And then the US is another time zone. So the clock goes on and on, but if you have the passion and you enjoy what you do, and I heard this expression before, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And, and then sometimes I think, you're going to probably die before then.
Exactly.
But I'm so back to what we're doing today is now I'm understanding the sleep is essential and the benefits that we get from it. And I try and have a cat nap in the afternoon wherever I am, so then in the evening I go on a bit more.
So how would you say you actually slept? Are you quite a good sleeper? What are the main sort of issues for you?
Well, I mean, if I think back, my day yesterday, woke up, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock, I was in the gym, only 30 minutes, breakfast, and I think at 9 o'clock meeting, then 12 o'clock, some alcohol in between, and then meeting at 4 o'clock, and then I had a dinner in the evening. So it's quite active, and you don't really get time to think, when am I going to sleep? Got back to the room about, 11, 12 o'clock. Woke up again this morning, 5 o'clock. In between, you're checking your emails, you're responding to phone calls, dealing with all the everyday things. It's quite normal.
Yeah, so there hasn't been a shift then in, say, your activity with the advertising company from when you started, say, in the late 1970s or in 72. So there hasn't been a shift then to now, although do you think other things have got better? Do you think that because you are more aware of the importance of sleep, so it may be that your diet is, you're more conscious of your diet.
Agreed.
It might be that you are doing more yoga now. So in terms of relaxing the brain, maybe
I think
it is that shift.
I think with time, experience, age, you don't slow down, but you learn to manage yourself better. Gym where you can. Football I still play on a Monday night, which is quite a problem because you come back at 11. We play at 9 o'clock, finish at 11. By the time you settle down, it's midnight. Then you're pumping. If you win, you're pumping. If you lose, you're working out what went wrong. So
but again, you talk about having that game of football. And that is so important in that I don't believe that we are as physical as we used to be. We are more sedentary. There are less people going out and playing football, particularly in the evening. And I do believe it's partly due to the work that we now have, particularly here in Dubai. This is a country that never sleeps. Now, it's an amazing country because the can-do attitude that is fostered here in Dubai is like no other country on the earth. It's, we have to give kudos to this wonderful country. But I do believe, and of course the weather doesn't help partly, but you doing the football, again, it gives you that dopamine hit, which is so much better than coming from a screen, which is also destroying our ability to sleep. But it is the city that we are from a culture now that is never switched off 24 hours a day, we're on, and that's not healthy. So in terms, culturally, if we're looking around the world and if we look at Japan, for example, Japan has got the worst sleep in the world. It's in the top 3. Whereas like New Zealand, for example, New Zealand has got the best sleep in the world.
They say why that is?
A big part of it is being outside, a big part of it is food, because of course, with Japan, for example, there is an actual condition that is impacted by their work ethic, and they work harder than any other country in the world. It's a badge of honour, but the impact on their health is...
Well, I like the work ethic part of it, but I mean, listen, I love the food, the lifestyle, the Asian way. They do find solutions, I think, the massage and,
Food is a big part, actually. So they're, in terms of carbohydrates and less sugar, and when they eat, food is a big part that really benefits not only their sleep, but their overall health. And yes, they do have the nap culture, but the nap culture isn't to serve their health. It's to extend their working hours, which is also not healthy. But so culturally, what about you? How has that impacted your belief system when it comes to sleep with your children, for example, and even now?
I think, we grew up, I might hear my mother at 6 a.m. doing some sort of meditation quite early. Would wake up the house, The best thing that she probably ever did was she started doing talk fasting. So she wouldn't speak for quite a while. And
that's a thing.
Yeah, I know.
That's amazing.
Brilliant. People would ring us and she'd answer the phone and not speak. It's like.
And so, what would the duration be of the...
Probably weeks. I think I encourage it for. Is
that to like cleanse yourself, or what's the whole sort of background?
Yeah, I mean.
I guess
that's amazing, but
food.
Yeah.
I really understand about fasting
in
that respect. And again, there's more and more studies that are showing us the benefits of fasting. But of course, it's how we fast, because that is going to impact. I've had clients who have gone to sleep hungry because of taking on this fasting, and yet it's not serving them. So even if they were just to have 1 teaspoon of honey, as it's a carbohydrate, that will actually help stabilize their blood glucose for the night, so there isn't the crash in the night. So it's just how we interpret information. So that's incredible about having
I know.
these
that's amazing.
fasting.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. You get some peace at last, but I mean,
such a man thing to say. I'm so sorry. That's very.
It's the truth. In terms of my own children, we there was no special way. I know nowadays, we've talked earlier about how people have sleep schedules, and we have people in the, friends and family who say, "Oh, don't come at this time because the kids are going to sleep." Our world was, we carried on as normal. Serena, my older daughter, we'd take her to the restaurants at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, stick her in the rocker. We'd carry on having our dinner, drinks. People walk around with her in the restaurant, and then we'd go home. They're knackered, they go to sleep. Same with the second child. I mean, when they do wake up, one of us will go and just deal with it. But, there's no special, we never treat them any different. And I think it's been their benefit.
Because you want to go out and still continue with your life,
Exactly.
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
So, going out for dinner and the baby's, I don't know, a month old or something. And then they can sleep with so much noise and surroundings. You think, well, why not? And I did the same with both mine as well, actually.
No, it's great. And they become, I've seen now, they're more sociable, they get around.
Yeah.
They're not pampered. So
I do think, though, social media has played a huge part in how we're living our lives today, in not always the best way. It's had if you look at technology is destroying our sleep, but it's also destroying our brain in that we are less able to make decisions around our own personal health because everything appears to be professionalized. Whether it's parenting, we want to professionalize parenting. We need to recognize that parenting is intuitive, and we need to lead and be the best parents we can be, because we really are an expert in our children. We need to stop expertizing, parenting. Equally, we need to look and take responsibility for our health. Now, living here in Dubai, having worked in the NHS for many, many years, I believe that living here in Dubai, we do take more responsibility and we are better at deciding what is best for our health rather than the NHS. Because I believe the NHS, unfortunately now, it's not the National Health Service, it's the National Sick Service. We're not coming from a preventative perspective. And I know with my family a little bit, they keep going to their doctor to ask them, do I do this and do that? It's like, think for yourself. There are certain things that I know you can take, and you can take them more safely. But no, they have to go to the doctor and get permission. We need to stop.
Yeah,
so, if you look again culturally, within, Ayurveda, that is just
exactly. I think
so
Asia,
beneficial.
I think Asia in general, they look at alternative therapies of medicine. This morning I had a tea with lots of ginger in it. In the food you eat, there's a lot of garlic, and it's, touch wood. Can't remember last time I went to the doctors, and there's no way I even want to go near the place because they probably give you a prescription for some tablets, which, you know, is not really a solution anyway. So.
And that's the concern now, because you were talking about the food that you eat. We also know that due to the whole idea of the agricultural farming, the big agricultural farming now, that has really depleted the soil of all these nutrients that when we were growing up as children, when I was growing up as children, they were in their bucket load, if you like. So one of them, of course, being magnesium and different nutrients within the soil. And you can't get that anymore. We can't get it. You know, magnesium, for example, is a food that we should be eating. It's a mineral we should be eating because it should be in our soil, but it's not. And we know that magnesium is responsible for over 300 chemical reactions within the body. 300. You know, you talked before about we were talking about the adrenal glands. Magnesium is so supportive of promoting all the different hormones. Serotonin, it's a building block for serotonin, and yet we are so deficient in magnesium. So again, it's just about having that knowledge and being interested and still maintaining it. And you are doing that. You know, you're doing your football, you are having the ginger in your tea. Now, it's not to say that we are poo-pooing you know, other forms of medicine. It's that it is using it to complement. They complement one another.
Yeah, I just think like sometimes science can make things complicated, and I think for generations you see people in, you know, probably India, China, living for 100 years, and you know they probably live quite meager diets, but the lifestyle seems to suit longevity of life. So
you see, I find that really exciting that you were saying about science. You know, and it was an old wives' tale to say that, you know, sleep before 12 o'clock, the hour before 12 is so much greater than the hour after, like 4 hours after. The science is showing us that is true. So, you know, both are really supporting one another, and I find that really exciting.
Speaking of your international travel, how do you cope with the jet lag though? Because obviously you're going in for client meetings, maybe new clients and things like that. Because each time I fly into a conference, I am exhausted. So I almost need like a day before to sort of like, you know, ground myself, and then, you know, you're able to sort of go in and speak to people, and you're mentally sort of there.
Yeah.
But what do you do?
I think it's good planning. Like everything we talk about now is better planning, and I suppose when you're traveling, there's a flight out of Dubai at 2 a.m. which goes to London. I love it because by the time you land, a new day started. You've slept because it's the night time. You naturally fall asleep. Bang, you're ready to rock and roll. You know, when you're going to other sides. I feel that way. And if you're going to the other side of the world, then like yourself, probably I'll go a day earlier. I suggest to my colleagues, always go a day earlier, acclimatize, you know, get yourself in the zone, and, you know, try and enjoy yourself a bit, because it's supposed to be fun, everything we do. Yeah. You know, it's not a chore.
Because everything's impacted though when you don't sleep, and literally memory-wise as well, and getting people's names wrong and this and that. Really, really affects me.
No,
I don't know whether you feel the same.
No, I get you. And it's like planning, like you say, more than just blagging it sort of thing, you know. Yeah.
But I also think that recognising there isn't a one-size-fits-all. You know, I was saying about, you know, when you do the overnight flight, if again we're looking at the science, the reason why the overnight flight isn't the best, because it's not just about duration of sleep, it really is about quality of sleep. Yeah. And two examples here. So there was a really interesting piece of research that came from Columbia University, very recent. Okay. And they looked at 25 to 35-year-olds, a group, and they took charge of their diet. So their diet was high in fiber, less saturated fats, and low in sugar. And they monitored their sleep, which was very precise for 4 nights. Then on the 5th night, they said, okay, off you go. You have whatever you wish to eat. And it was absolutely astounding, the results that came out of them making their own choices. And they, of course, had more sugar in their diet. There was less fiber. Now, what that meant was, on the night when they were able to choose what they ate, or the day they chose what they ate, it took them double the amount of time to fall asleep. There was 17 minutes with a controlled 4 days, 17 minutes to fall asleep. And then on the night that it was 39 minutes. That's a big difference.
Yeah, wow.
Now, not only that did it take them longer to fall asleep, but their sleep quality, their deep sleep was impacted. It was halved. So their deep sleep, which then means that we are much more open to injury. So if you went and play football that night, the next night you'd be much more open to injury. And so there is that. And then the second thing, we know that when we don't have that, on the plane, for example, or if we're in the car or on the train, when there is movement, the brain perceives that movement as danger. So it goes into fight, fright, and flight. So it doesn't allow the body to go into that deep sleep. And that's why we don't wake up as refreshed. That's the science. But you were saying, I wake up, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and
which is...
But you sleep well on the plane, obviously,
of
right?
course. And as it's taking off, there's that feeling of like, now's the time to just crash. So normally, as the wheels go up, we just crash for whatever period it is, and
Whereas I'm opposite. I get glued to the screen.
Yeah.
I get glued every time.
Yeah, I know. We have our ways, but I enjoy traveling anyway, and the screen is quite good because you have good films, you can have a drink, have some food.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I love flying as well.
Good night's sleep. So far, I enjoy my sleep. I'm sure I'll find better sleep, but I think the cat naps is the key. Wherever I am, I just crash for 20, 30 minutes and I feel good again.
So what, really quickly, just before we wrap up. So when you crash for those 20 minutes, are you sort of like, what's your preparation to sort of immediately fall asleep? Because obviously you're tired.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're overtired, I find it hard to just lie there. It'll take me 10, 20 minutes to get then 10, 20 minutes sleep.
When I'm overtired, then I'll literally book a massage or something because that environment seems to be more conducive to help you fall asleep.
Nice.
So that's always my solution. But otherwise, it's just, when we're on the way home, even the party the other night, Mrs. said I slept all the way in the taxi. Wherever I am, I just sleep like that.
You trained your body to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
I think when I go to football, Old Trafford, we play in the weekday. Game finishes at, 11 o'clock, and you wait for the traffic to die down. Midnight, someone will drive. I'll just sleep in the back of the car, so I'm ready for work next day.
So it's all about cat naps.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Depending on the time of your nap, it can really boost your creativity. So you working in the advertising world, that will, for you to nap at a certain time, those creative juices will really, really flow because of the napping. Now, what we also need to recognize is you don't need to have a long nap. We know that, again, looking at another study, when there was a group of Olympian athletes, they napped for as little as 9 minutes, and that improved their performance, their physical performance. So it's phenomenal. Now, the other thing that you can do is something called a nappuccino.
Okay.
Now, a nappuccino is where it inhibits that grogginess when you wake up. So what you will do is that you will fall asleep, you will have a coffee. Now, it needs to be a good coffee. So it can't be,
Well, before you sleep?
Before you sleep.
I do know this. I didn't think I knew what an nappuccino, but I do. I know what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So that when you wake up, 20 minutes in, your caffeine kick-started and you are good to go. You haven't got that, we call it sleep inertia. So that's not there. So that's what you can do as well. So that's really, really
You have
helpful.
Irish coffee or?
You love to
like
take
to try
it.
Doctor's orders.
And you love to take it one step further, Jay. I'm learning quite a lot. But of course, if we're talking about nappuccinos, there's also another little hack that you can do, which is boil some water. Now, this is for sleeping in the evening. Boil some water with a banana skin, skin of a banana. Now, the skin of a banana is full of potassium, and potassium is a great building block for your sleep. So nappuccino with that coffee before you nap, and then a banana skin boiled, in water. Drink that water before you go to sleep, and it really helps with your sleep.
I've never heard that about the banana.
The banana skin,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
and of
amazing.
course ashwagandha,
Yeah.
ashwagandha is something incredible.
That's really good.
So that's
Okay.
really
all
that
right.
we need
Maybe
to
that's
do.
one.
Nappuccino,
one
good
for
to
the-
go.
Interesting you say that about the vibrations in a car, though, because it does completely relax you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I find exactly the same. If I'm nervous before I go somewhere, I get in a taxi and it sort of like gets
Yeah.
the jitters. Yeah.
I know. I think all my friends will say I always just fall asleep on the way home. Woken up with all marks on my face and
You're
This
that
is what I
guy.
love to hear.
Yeah.
Great sleepers. We need more great sleepers in the world. And I think we're having less and less time because the world is so busy. So I would just like to say a huge thank you And we have really engaged and love this conversation. And thank you, Laura, for being my co-host.
Yes.
And just to say, whatever you do, with a good night's sleep, you can change the world. So thank you from Sleepless in Dubai.